Hello good people, Giuseppe here again. We're going to be making focaccia today. Yay! Focaccia is one of the recipes that people ask me the most, and I'm very happy to have included two versions of focaccia in my book, Focaccia Barese and Focaccia Genovese. Focaccia Barese is very lofty, very thick, and is the typical one made with cherry tomatoes and olives. And that's the one we're going to be making today. I've got a mix of two different flours to use today. One is the quintessentially Italian flour, what is called the 00, which is very fine. That is mixed also with standard bread flour, which we want for the high protein content, so that it develops the gluten that is going to hold up that very lofty and thick structure. We're going to be using yeast. This is standard instant yeast. I've got water there, and I'll be mixing it with milk, and these two have been kept in the fridge to keep them as cold as possible. And we will be trickling in very slowly the water and milk mixture. Take your time to do this. We're going to be adding some extra virgin olive oil. It wouldn't be a traditional dish from the south of Italy if you didn't have some oil at least. When the dough comes together in a coherent mass, even if it is quite coarse and rough, that's the right time to sprinkle in the sugar. As a last ingredient, we're going to be adding some salt to the mix. And finally, we're going to be increasing the speed a little. And we'll be letting the mixer go for about 10 to 15 minutes. Which might sound like a long time, but it's a time that is needed to develop the gluten that is going to be creating the all-important structure in a focaccia. Making the topping for a focaccia barese couldn't be easier. Cherry tomatoes that have been washed in half with olives, obviously, extra virgin olive oil, a clove of garlic, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper, and finally some oregano. You give it a good stir. What we might want to do as well is to prepare the emulsion that is going to go on top of the focaccia before the last proving. Olive oil, water, and some salt. The purpose of lamination is to add a lot of strength to the dough, and we do that effectively by using the gluten that we've produced and created in the previous step of the process and stretching it and folding it in a specific way so that it adds to the strength of the dough. Lightly wet out the worktop. Even if the dough is quite hydrated and sticky, it won't stick to your wet hands anymore. What you want to do is to lift it gently and stretch it progressively from the sides. It's actually quite fun to do as well. The folding is really straightforward. You take one side and fold it over the center. Then you take the other side, fold it over the center, the top over the center, and then the bottom over the center as well. Roll it up. The dough feels fantastic. Now you leave your folded dough on your worktop, cover it up with the mixer bowl, and leave it there for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we are ready to do the second lamination. So you have to repeat exactly the same process again, and we will leave it to prove for about 1 hour and a half at 20 degrees C, or until the dough is doubled in volume, roughly. Our focaccia dough is nice and proved, full of air and bubbly, perfect. So what is left to do now is to oil the tin. Now with our oiled fingers, we're going to be spreading it in the tin as much as possible. You might have noticed that throughout the whole process of making focaccia, I've never added flour anywhere. That's because I don't want to alter the flour to water ratio. I'm going to be covering it up with cling film and let it rest for a second proving. At 20 degrees C, this should take no more than 30 minutes. So when you see that the focaccia is light and fluffy and is quite thick, then we're ready to go to the next step. We proved our focaccia for a second time. It's nice and lofty and creates some dimples. So now it's the time to add the topping. All that is left to do now is to sprinkle the lot with the emulsion we prepared earlier. Now we can leave the focaccia to prove one final time, again for about 30 minutes at 20 degrees C. This time, however, uncovered, because the emulsion will keep it nice and moist anyway. It's all fluffy and lofty, so it's ready to go in the oven. When it's nice and golden as this, it's time to take it out of the oven, otherwise the crust might start to dry out. So let's see what it looks like inside. This is what we wanted, a very soft, cloud-like texture. It smells fantastic. I wish you could smell this. To be frank, this looks perfect to me. Buon appetito. Fantastico. It's really good.